Joining me today is Flobo Boyce. He is a host, a writer, a comedian, and an esports shoutcaster. And we're going to learn a lot more about him today. He's been on the show before, but all about Flowboy today. Thank you for joining us on
Yeah.
Run With It.
Well, I mean, the award-winning program itself has a lot of luminaries on the show. So the fact that I was invited is kind of flattering. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're my pleasure, and I'm excited. But I want to ask you, just the sandwich, that's a podcast and a blog. How did it come up with its name? And
Yeah, it's funny because you know what Disney Imagineering is, like how they try to make something with fake lore. So Just a Sandwich, justasandwich.com is my sports writing comedy blog. And it's about culture, it's about travel, kind of irreverent in tone. I really wanted to practice my sports writing because I started doing sports podcasts. I was in this baseball podcast called the Black Baseball Mixtape. And so I wanted to show people that I wasn't just a pretty face. I can write and stuff like that, but also wanted to make sure that I wasn't being completely serious about it. This wasn't like come to the sports corner with Flobo Boyce. It wasn't like that at all. It was just kind of like, hey, look, this is something that's happening. Obscure sport that I learned, or something that came across my desk with the news. Can I make my little like funny twist to it, almost like the Daily Show type situation? So that is the actual reason why it's called Just a Sandwich. There are two reasons. One is the actual, and one is the lore. One is the Imagineering version. And the Imagineering version is that when I was a kid and we went to the fast food joint, which is kind of odd to say this on a health show, but we went to the fast food joint. A lot of times we didn't want to have the extra sides, and we would say, "Hey, look, just give me the Big Mac, just a sandwich," or like, "I don't want the toy, just give me like the Happy Meal burger or whatever." The real reason is that when I was in my 20s, I was into domain flipping, and I always used to buy domains and sell them at a profit. And I had this idea for a sports blog. I didn't have any URLs left but justasandwich.com. So I said, you know what? Let me just use that. So me buying something else and trying to make something else. And I said, how cool would it be to make something from nothing? And Just a Sandwich was in a beta for 6 months. I posted Post Republic, but I didn't tell anyone it existed. I really wanted it to get the craft. And so as it grown and people are saying, what a silly name, over time it stops being silly over time. So it's kind of fun to see that grow.
well, it's very clever. I was thinking, wow, just a sandwich. So in your blog, like you cover sports, comedy in the blog.
Yeah, it's to me it's sports culture and travel. So, I when I was trying to go to every single Major League Baseball ballpark, it was a thing about how to travel through the United States. As big as it is, as advanced as we try to tell ourselves, the infrastructure in the United States isn't that great. So, how do I show people the humor of taking a $4 overnight train ride between cities, or trying to flag down a bus that goes through Amish country, for example? And just kind of like my take on updates and things like that. So sports is the primary driver. Most blog posts are about sports with a little bit of a funny twist, but sometimes there's cultural things in there. Sometimes there's movie reviews in there just to say, hey, look, what's my irreverent take on things? And it's kind of cool medley over time.
Yes, and I think you wrote something about concession foods. Like
Oh,
that.
yeah, like you know what? Like you save so much money to go to an event, and you scrimp and you save, or worse, there's like pay installment plans now where you can like put the money in segments. And the World Cup was, for example, like tickets were thousands of dollars, and then when you get there, yeah, it's the concessions at stadiums are past the point of just hot dogs and soda, but like you're paying $25 for a cheeseburger, or you're paying $65 for a steak or something at the ballpark, which blows my mind. But then you got to think about that. If you bring a family out there and you're already saying to heck with your diet, and if you don't even say that, you're going to pay through the nose. And that's pretty much hurting how many times you have to go out and be outside. People talk about the loneliness epidemic, how hard it is to find partners to date with, or even platonic friends to go on hikes with, or people to go to shows where you go outside. It costs so much money to park the car, to have food, to have a drink. Even if you don't drink alcohol, it's like, I'll just stay inside. I think everyone's kind of catching on to that idea.
Yes, no. So check out just the sandwich.
Yeah, .com.
Right. No, Flobo, so tell us about, now I've been on your show and it
Mhm.
was a lot of
Thanks.
fun. Host of New Amsterdam. Now tell us, like, how long is that? you've had that show for a while, and tell us any new updates, who's coming on the show, and
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it started off as a business idea that flopped, right? In 2017, it was a notebook company that the idea was I wanted people who were creatives that had the choice of using apps that would write stuff, like rappers would write, comedians would write in their books. And I was a notebook company for about a year. The money dried up for whatever reason. And so to me, I'm so proud of that brand, New Amsterdam with a K for SEO purposes, because I was able to resurrect it and to use it something else. And I've been able to have almost 500 episodes, 350, 325 canon, a lot of bonus episodes, chatting with entrepreneurs and creatives and things like that. And really, that's been the train we've been going. So this season coming up, we're getting a lot more of that. I know we have a lot of authors that have stepped up on the show too, but I just recorded 2 shows today about those that are business leaders and especially women business leaders and how they're able to let other stakeholders know they assess risk and really approach jobs that are seen as logical, even though there's preconceived notions of what women can do in the workforce. So it's kind of an inadvertent thing, but I think if the mission statement's open and you tell me not only your why as to why you're doing things, but your how tactically, how you do things, I think there's going to be enough room there for indefinitely on the show.
yes, well, you wear many hats. Like I was saying, you're a writer.
Yeah, I don't have any hair. That's why I got to make sure it's covered.
You were, but you are also a comedian and you're an MC. So tell us about your comedy work. I mean, like it helps with your writing, it helps with your hosting. So tell our audience about your work as a comedian.
I would say the opposite. I say my writings help my comedy. I
Mm.
have not been on stage, in full disclosure, I have not been on stage in about 2 years. I think I had a retirement show. I believed I was retired for about 6 months, but now the itch is back. But I will say comedy and improv to a lesser extent really does help, not only to make a joke about a situation and think on your feet, but a lot of times help you to empathize with others. We are past a point in comedy where it's like the waka waka take my wife please, right? When we buy a ticket to see a comedy show, assuming you can afford the concessions, right? You have this preconceived notion is I wonder how X comedian's going to talk about this topic. Why? Because we want to know more about the backgrounds and what our entertainers are coming from. We're reading the back of labels for everything. Hey, this guy, he's from this culture. This person's from this city. This is how they look at things. And I think comedy helps with that. But when you're on stage and you're sharing your perspective, the idea maybe not so much to make people laugh every single moment. I mean, jokes are important. I'm not saying don't make people laugh, but you want to make sure that people understand your point of view. And sometimes you have to educate, sometimes you have to entertain, sometimes you make jokes, sometimes you have serious moments. And I think ultimately it's to empathize. You understand your audience paid whatever dollars to come see you, and on the flip side, you want the audience to be like, please see where I'm coming from. I'm human just like you. And I think comedy is the one of the best avenues of doing that. So I have meetings with clients. A lot of times a joke or a TV show reference or a certain thing in the room that we all can see we're trying to ignore, the elephant, if you will, is enough to break tension. And breaking tension is the first step to breaking bread, and that's how things get done a lot of times in meetings and all that. So humor and comedy make the world go round.
Yes. And you have to be able to read the room, right? And
Yeah.
see how it is. But you said something, writing has helped your comedy career. How how does that work?
Yeah, you, as Hemingway say, right? You put your fingers on the keyboard and bleed, and that's what writing is. Yeah, I think a lot of times when you're telling a story, you've all been in a situation when someone's long-winded and they kind of don't get to the point, and you're just kind of zoning out. And you're like, "Yeah, that's great, that's crazy." But learning how to convey an idea or a process or a story succinctly in a structure, beginning, middle, end, set up punchline, whatever have you. Comedy helps with that. And also, again, seeing perspectives of others, writing helps reinforce that over time, over time. Back to Just a Sandwich. I like sports enough. I'm not saying I'm like, Bob Costas, but I do think that if you write about it with your perspective and your background, the small community that does show up every week that to see a new article, they have an expectation of how am I going to break down a particular news subject or news item, and I think there's value in that. So I always say I'm a writer first, because I think the material has to be strong and the performance can be strong, but you can skip a step on stage or you can put the mic in a wrong situation and not lose the joke. I can't imagine the opposite and be on the stage where I need to be and not have material. Like that to me is right of getting booed off the stage. So I do think writing is the primary building block for sure.
Yeah, so writing, yes, definitely. And no, and also too, do you have a favorite sport or is it wrestling, I think?
Yeah, it's funny because when I was a kid, my favorite sport was karate because I wanted to be a Power Ranger. Street Fighter was big, Mortal Kombat was big, and that's the sport I did. I was a football center. I was a guard, excuse me, a nose guard in high school. That's as far as my athletic career goes. I watch baseball. I cover baseball the most. That's what I would say first, and then MLS after that. I'm a big Galaxy fan. Please save the Whitecaps. They don't need to leave Vancouver. Vancouver needs that
Yes.
team. But I would say something about everything, because I may enjoy it as a competition side, like baseball or soccer. Sometimes I like the fact that it exists. Like Australian rugby rules are different than rugby union rules. I became obsessed like that. Or there is now a women's professional baseball league. I've been obsessed with that. And then also communities have national sports that are so obscure. My parents are from the Caribbean island of Barbados. Their national sport is a sport called road tennis, which origin wise was people put a little plank of wood in the street and played a version of what pickleball is now on the ground. And that's a point of pride because that's something that they've done, they created from scratch. So sports does a lot of that. And I always tell people, I get it if sports aren't your thing. Don't be a sports ball guy. By that I mean don't be like, oh, I can't believe you watched that. Like, don't do that. But I understand if you're like, I don't get this. Why are you guys caring about this? That's my job. As a fan, wrestling, I just watched SummerSlam. I mean, to me, it's more theater in the round presented as a sport because the results are predetermined. But costumes, being bold, learning about having confidence of self, all that's wrestling. So, kind of a long-winded answer to your question, which is kind of ironic. Talk about long-winded answers, but the idea is I try to find something out of everything.
Yes. And so how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? Like, and with everything that you do, I know I said you wear many hats.
Mhm. Yeah, first things first is get your sleep in there, man. I used to be like, "Ugh, I don't need that. I mean, 5 hours, I am good to go." And I realized it's true. Like you put on weight because you don't eat as well. You get the sugar cravings. I'll get like the lightheaded spells and stuff at like 11 o'clock in the morning because I'm looking at a screen all day. Sleep is number one. Sleep and water is number one. Number two and one A. I do try to mix up any kind of workout routine, and I would say at least two distinct, maybe three distinct. So there's days where I'll run, and running is kind of bread and butter because it's the cheapest. Shout out to being broke, y'all. That's the cheapest. Sometimes I go to the gym, and I do the little weight training thing as well. Afternoons, I usually walk. I have a planking board. There, I have batting cage tokens. I'll go and do a little slow pitch softball. Nothing too crazy. I'm not an athlete that way. The idea is that you don't want to get bored with your workouts, right? Because what ends up happening is you go light today, light tomorrow, and then by the third day, you're like, I'll go even lighter. And then you get kind of like, I haven't gone in a week. So I try to switch it up. Today, I went for a run. I might go for a walk this afternoon because it's a hot day. Tomorrow, I'll probably go to the gym in the morning. And then if there's some time, maybe hit the bowling alley up to get the cardio up. So it is definitely a balance. I take time. When I was heavy, at my heaviest, I was about 375 pounds. I always said people in jail get at least an hour of physical time, just because it's like human decency. Why not me? And that was my original motivation. But then, of course, we're always a part narcissistic. We're like, oh man, my clothes feel better in this. And hey, that person bought me a drink over there because I look like this. And that kind of puts the motivation after the fact. But that's really got me started going that lifestyle.
Thank you for sharing. And do you find it helps? Like you're more productive?
Yeah, because you got to squeeze it in. I mean, my first call today, it was 8 a.m. Pacific. I set my alarm for 5:45 and I snoozed about 6:30. And I said, well, I can either get up and not and just wait or go for a light jog. And a light jog
Yes.
isn't as better good as a long-term run, but it's better than not doing it at all. And so, yeah, you get to understand and time yourself. And you can say, I usually give myself this amount of time during the day to get that done. And I'm okay with stacking meetings. It's like safely. I'm okay with doing multitasking safely if it affords me an hour or two during the day to get it done.
Yes, no, wonderful. And tell us what is next for you? Upcoming projects, just a sandwich, your New Amsterdam, your
I'm trying to be on this show a third time. That's what's next for me. That is my goal. No, I thank you so much for asking because I'm actually having that kind of moment there. There's so many plates are spinning. Just a sandwich. I've written an article for the, and they actually tell you this every week. I use Substack. They tell you 126 weeks in a row. So it's about 2.5 years. I've done a new piece of content on that page. So that's going to be going. And then I always want to make sure that my baseball content through there's two shows, Black Baseball Mixtape and In the Booth with Flobo Boyce. I get to talk to more of like the scholars of the game on that show. I hope that gets a lot more exposure. But ultimately, it's just to make sure that I'm keep moving. I swore I was done with comedy, but I find myself buying a new notebook. I find myself scribbling notes. I'm not sure anything is on the horizon quite yet, but I can't close the door. So a lot of things going. Look for Just a Sandwich for sure, week to week, but maybe popping up in a bunch of other places.
yes, no, that's wonderful. And is there a book or have you written a book before, Flobo?
Yeah, I've written seven books. Most of them are fiction, but the one that I pushed is my only memoir. I wrote it out of spite because the fiction book before that didn't sell, and I was like, I'm gonna quit writing, but I always want to do a memoir. It's called Graduation Day. It's a chapter by chapter outline of my failures as an adult, and of course, New Amsterdam, the Notebook Company, is in that book. But the conceit was it's wrapped in a commencement speech I wish I got when I was 21. When I graduated college, you hear about, oh, Conan O'Brien did this commencement, Jim Carrey, Oprah, Obama, like Justin Trudeau, whatever. We got a district manager at Walmart telling us about go getting it. And I thought that was so unhelpful for me at the time. And then I walked off stage with my diploma, and of course, the Alumni Association is, hey, do you want to make a donation today? I'm like, no, I just graduated. And I never felt prepared. Yes, I had all the academic schooling I wanted to, but I did not have like that older cousin that to shoot straight. You know, I had older people in my life to be like, hey, save your money and make sure you're healthy, but nothing like, yeah, don't ride a motorcycle without a helmet. Here's why. And so I wanted to tell people that story. And maybe it's a spoiler alert, but one of the favorite chapters I've got the most feedback on, it was one called The Italian Job, where as a wedding DJ, I was asked to do this wedding in Italy. I was going to pay a lot of money, but I figured if I go out there and I do a good job, that I would, have some content for my website. Long story short, the wedding went off without a hitch. It was fine. But getting to the venue was such a scary moment for me as an American because I've heard about the ugly American. I would say, I would never do that. But being halfway across the world, being lost in the Italian countryside, and you're like, the road signs are telling you where to go, but you can't read Italian. So I'm freaking out. It's almost like my senses are failing me. I became that like that really short, nasty, hey buddy, where's this? Like kind of like ugly American. That was the first time I saw that side of myself. And I had a moment being like, hey, I get survival mode. It brings the worst out of people, right? Maybe have some grace when people are having a crisis. And I made sure when I got to the inn that night and when I checked out, I sent back a care package to the innkeeper because I was awful. I was like, this room is too small. I want something bigger by the ocean. Ah, but those are life lessons no one tells you about having grace under fire. That I thought that would be kind of cool. So Graduation Day is a book. It's called Real Lessons from Life Lessons from the Real World. It's available now on Amazon.
Wonderful. And people would like to check you out. You have a website. Your social, not just Google, find you.
Yeah, I can say Google it now, right? But it took me a long time. But yeah, the main website is flobito.com. That's FLOBITO.com. Justasandwich.com. It's the blog we were talking about earlier. And of course, my books are available on Amazon. Graduation Days, the latest by Flobo Boyce. So you can find me pretty much wherever. If you can't stand me, too bad. I'm everywhere.
Yes. And is there anything else you like to say, or like I didn't ask you?
Yeah. So when are you gonna do the next like photo shoot? Like, yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but on the Instagram, Miss Blanchette has like these photo shoots where she's like active and she's on the red carpet. You're like, wow, what am I doing with my life? Like, I love those. Those are great.
Oh, you know what? Stay tuned. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a pleasure, having you on the show again, Flobo, and we'd like to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. Say the word.
Yeah, so until next time, run with it.